Welcome to the Healing Hour with Sarah O'Brien.
Hey guys, happy Thursday. Sarah Fargo O'Brien here, bringing you another episode of the Healing Hour. So today's going to be a little bit different. I am going to be talking about healing, but in a different kind of way. So you guys have seen me talk about topics like suicide prevention and emotional intelligence and some other good stuff. And today we are going to be talking about ways that we can heal, but it's going to have a little bit of a different twist. I'll start with a check-in, and then I'll do my 3 deep breaths, and then we will jump in and see what we get to today. I am kind of prepared, but maybe not as much as usual. You guys might see that. I might be rambling a little, but I appreciate you being here. Okay. Where I'm at right now is north of Richmond City, Virginia. And we had, hi AJ, happy to see you. And we had crazy snow ice this week on Sunday and Monday. And as a result, Richmond City is waterless. So if anybody did not hear, the city of Richmond has been completely out of water. Their water treatment facility flooded and has not been able to pump water to the entire city of Richmond and parts of the neighboring counties since Monday. So that's been an interesting state of emergency here where I'm at. I am fine. I have water. I am north of the city, and actually my house is on a well. I'm at my home office right now. But it's been like a little bit all over the place here as a result. And of course, I have clients and I have family members that live in the city and friends. And so people being without water is difficult. And people that can get water are on a boil advisory, and they will probably be on a boil advisory for another 48 hours. So for anybody that prays for anything, yes, people in California and the fires, and here people in Richmond, Virginia do not have water. And the city of Richmond is full of individuals that are marginalized or low income, don't have transportation, and can't get to water. Water is sold out. They do have water giving away stations, but it's kind of hard to walk with a case of water. So it's been interesting here. Definitely some social work efforts happening, and the community coming together. I heard just yesterday the YMCA has opened themselves up, all locations for people to shower. It's been interesting, people asking family members and things if they can come shower. Same with me, happy to do it. It's just kind of a crazy, unfortunate situation that's happening here in Virginia as well, or in our own type of urgency there. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think people in Richmond are tired of not having water, not being able to cook food, not being able to clean dishes. Hospitals don't have water. Pharmacies are closed. Nobody can wash their hands. It's an interesting situation here. So that's what we have going on. I'm trying to stay inside and stay warm. Although I was just telling Jason, my partner in wellness, who's behind the scenes, that I had a nice brisk walk at 17 degrees with my dog yesterday morning and this morning. So tons of fun. We are well our way into winter. So, really check your seasonal affective disorder, guys. Joke from the therapist. All right, let's start with some deep breaths, and then I'll dive into some of today's content. If you want to take your deep breaths with me, here we go. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Really try to elongate that out breath. Try to make your inhale as long as your exhale. Okay, you guys know that always settles me down a little bit, so I'm not, spouting off at you a mile a minute. Let's get our content on. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I got to get to the screen where I can click through. Okay, today I'm talking to my fellows, my fellow therapists, my fellows. We are going to talk about some healing for therapists today because, my God, do we need it. Not only am I one that needs it for a lot of my own personal reasons, but I know that we need it for a bunch of professional and workplace reasons. And so I am speaking to my therapists, my mental health providers today. If you know any, give them a hug, help them out. They need care, consideration, and healing too. Hi, HR4U. Good to see you. So happy to be working with this organization. In case you guys were not aware, I am the director of student wellness for Transformation Kitchen, which is a subset of HR4U. And my good buddy Chasen has hired me for that role, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying that space. So check out HR4U and his nonprofit and what they have going on. It's a great basically social work, social engagement effort in his community, and I really love it. Okay, hey therapists, talking to you today. Hey therapists, are you tired of seeing a lot of clients and not making the amount that you want or need? If you work in mental health to any capacity, you understand this statement. If you don't work in mental health, you might not understand this statement. So let me tell you, being a mental health provider, particularly a licensed mental health provider that's doing any sort of case management and or counseling, and usually we are doing both, the requirements on caseloads are often ridiculously high. And the amount they pay social workers, even with master's degrees, even with licenses, is atrocious in my mind, especially for the work that we do. So I am not saying anything out of pocket. This is fact. I have lived this in Virginia. I know other therapists and mental health providers in other places have also lived this in their experiences. All around, mental health providers are not respected enough, and not only like in general by the public, but by other professions. And so we're sort of been struggling to find our seat at the table for a long time. And we are the highest credentialed and lowest paid profession there is. And so that's sad. That's not good for us. And it's hard for mental health providers to heal, to self-care, to show up for their families, to not burn out when this is the landscape in which we work. So today I'm going to be talking about benefits to private practice as opposed to working for an agency. Coffee break. Or even working for like a group practice or one of those like big mental health provider platforms that you all have heard of. Like, I don't even know the names of all of them. I know some of the old ones, like Cerebral got shut down, but it was there. BetterHelp is one. Talk something, like there's tons of them. You guys know what I'm talking about. Exactly right, Jason. People need to make living wages to take care of themselves and their families and wellness. And unfortunately, mental health providers often don't. And don't receive like raises in that regard. And just a fun fact for everybody, I take insurance, but insurances have not raised my reimbursement rates since 2020. So we are in 2025 and I am still making the rates that I was making in 2020. You guys all know what that's like. Inflation is crazy. If you work for somebody else, they've probably given you a raise in the last 5 years. I have not received a raise in the last 5 years, but there are other benefits to private practice, which means I can see more clients and balance that way. I can advocate for a rate increase, and I've been successful a couple of times with that. But all in all, the lack of respect for mental health providers and the work that we do, and the lack of respect for mental health providers as human beings and what we need both in workplaces and outside of it, is just really disheartening to me. And mental health providers are the glue in a lot of places, and we deserve recognition and compensation for what we do. And I just don't see that when working for somebody else, which is just sad because often management in those places started as us, boots on the ground, case managers, case workers, outpatient clinicians, that kind of thing, inpatient clinicians working in hospital settings and other things. And these workplaces are honestly just not good. They're just not good for mental health providers. And we're not well taken care of there, which is just shocking to me. And maybe it shouldn't be at this point, but it is. So, private practice. Tons of benefits if you're a licensed mental health provider. Now, let's be clear, you have to be a licensed mental health provider because you have to be a licensed mental health provider to credential with insurance companies. And you have to be a licensed mental health provider to provide psychotherapy and bill somebody's insurance. And you have to be a licensed mental health provider to provide psychotherapy to somebody because you have to be a licensed mental health provider to carry malpractice insurance. And you should 100% not be providing therapy, psychotherapy, counseling, mental health treatment of any kind if you don't have malpractice insurance. So those are some tips there. What are some of the benefits? We're going to talk about benefits in terms of money, time, capacity, and trauma or re-traumatization today. So money, are you barely making enough to live? That was certainly me at my last agency job, and that was 9 years ago. Would you like a lucrative job in mental health care? Who knew there was such a thing? I mean, lucrative for mental health care, maybe not lucrative compared to, Meta, Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, all those people. Not lucrative like that, but lucrative for mental health. Time. Are there too many demands on your time at work? Like not enough to complete everything you need to because you have too much to do? Therapists, would you like to work less and make more? That's actually a thing in private practice, especially if you're coming from an agency. Capacity. Excuse me. Let me take another sip of my coffee. Capacity. Are you struggling to maintain a high caseload? Do you feel drained no matter how much sleep you get? And trauma. Are you supported by company owners or managers? And would you like guaranteed safety, both physical and psychological safety at work? Yeah, I'd say we do, right? Nobody wants to be overworked and underpaid, traumatized in the process, and not supported. Unfortunately, those things happen on the regular for mental health providers. And this was my experience with almost 9 years in public mental health at 3 different mental health agencies. So it's not like it was one. 3 different community mental health agencies, and I basically experienced the same thing at every one. And after about 3 years at each one, I almost burned out and had to leave. And then after the third one, I decided I needed to do something different if I was going to stay in this field. And then I embarked on the journey to starting my private practice. And here we are 9 years later. So let's first talk about money and benefits for private practice. I'll just take my example. I'm using not exact numbers, but close and just gross numbers for explanation purposes. At my last community mental health job, 9 years ago, guys, 9 with a licensed clinical social worker, almost 9 years of experience, making less than $50K a year. Understand, that's 6 years of higher education, 2 years of supervised work, paying out of pocket for my supervision for licensure and my exam and my license, licensed for a couple of years, making less than $50,000 a year. Let that sink in, folks. That's the mental health world. Indeed, that is the mental health world. That is why I left a community agency job and started my own private practice, because it does not matter how well you work, what you do, whatever, they'll just give you more work when the agency, the government, the county, whatever decides that you need more work, and they will not pay you more for it. Let alone the work I was doing was grueling, let alone a lot of it was not safe. So it's also not psychologically safe, physically safe, and all that experience and education making less than $50,000 a year. It's like, understand, folks, people that go into mental health do not do it for the money, because there is not enough respect for us to get paid a reasonable salary for our credentials and how much education and experience we have. And this is just customary and nobody thinks it needs to change. So everybody just accepts this. And I got really tired of accepting it. And so I left and did something on my own. I thought about joining a group practice, but it was the same thing. If they're going to take a cut out of what I'm getting, how much am I really going to make, even if the work environment is different? So this is like real out there for people. So yeah, I was making less than 50K a year in my last public agency job. And then I made more than 75K in my first full year in private practice. So in 1 year, I already saw a benefit to my salary. 1 year. And then I doubled that by my third full year in practice, if you can imagine. So that's like tripling my agency salary within 3 years. And now I've profited every single year for 9 years straight, and I've never had a business plan. And that's because there are not enough mental health providers out there providing therapy. And if you open your doors to private practice, they will come. You will be full. You will probably have more than you need, and you will work less and make more. Like I've done this 9 years in a row, folks. Okay, some money differences in terms of insurances and private practice. Oh, thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. This culture has a problem, and this needs to be corrected. It's amazing to hear and see people like you speak up. Thank you, AJ. Yeah, if you give me the platform, I'm gonna say the thing that's probably not popular to be said. Always, people know that about me. Yes, I will rock the boat in terms of equity and fairness all day long and advocacy. Okay, so in my private practice, what does that look like? Let me also be clear. I am not a self-pay practice. I've never in 9 years had like a bunch of self-pay clients. I take insurance. And I'm telling you that I have increased my salary that amounts taking health insurance. This is not people paying out of pocket. So I started taking 10 or 15 or more, like every health insurance that you could panel with. Over time, I found that was a lot to keep up with and not really necessary to have a full caseload. So I've cut it down that I only have 4 insurance contracts right now. In 2021 or 2022, I negotiated a rate increase as a solo provider with 2 of the major insurances. Now, they didn't give me a lot, and I had to do a lot of work to get those raises. And then it took even longer to have them then go into effect. So almost a year later, after they were approved, did they go into effect. And that is just crazy to me too, but I was successfully able to do that as a solo provider, which is not easy. And at this point, 9 years into my career, I no longer take Medicaid and Medicare. I did when I started. And for anybody that wants to hire me for private practice consultation or business coaching, I'm happy to tell you why. I dropped Medicare and Medicaid. It's not necessarily all the reasons you think. But I'm happy to tell you why I have done that. And I am still doing, okay here in taking insurances and only having 4. Overhead. So I started a business with no capital, with no venture capitalists, with nobody giving me money to start it. I started my business working alongside my other job for like 9 months to a year. So yeah, I built a business working a very draining community mental health job for 40 hours a week, and it is possible. And then I was able to leave that job. So there's the overhead for running a private practice is very low, and the startup cost is very low. So this is true whether you are in person in an office or virtual. I started the first 4 years of my career 100% in office and only seeing clients in and around the Richmond area. And I was full and busy in no time. And now I am licensed in Maryland as well as Virginia and have moved completely virtual for the last 4 or 5 years since the pandemic. And it is the same. So yes, renting an office space is going to cost a little bit more, but not a lot more. Overhead's still really low. And another way for overhead to stay low is it's possible to conduct business needs on your own. I do everything myself except for my CPA, who does my taxes. and has taught me a lot about my taxes. So some of those things I do on my own throughout the year, and she files my tax return and does all of that. So everything else that you see associated with Sarah Fargo O'Brien, Thrive and Shive Counseling or Thrive and Shive Coaching, I do. Website, I do. Billing, I do. Calling insurances, I do. Returning calls to new clients, I do. Answering emails, scheduling, I do it all. And it's possible for you to do it all. Nobody taught me this. I taught myself. I've been successful for 9 years, and I can teach you the same thing. It is possible. And you can learn to do a bunch of things yourself and only pay for what you need to keep your overhead low. Again, if you want to know all my tips and secrets, you can hire me to be your private practice business consultant or business coach or private practice startup. And I will give you some of my secrets on how I do this and how I've been successful for the last 9 years in mental health as a licensed clinical social worker. Okay, time. Some benefits for time. Okay, when you work for a public agency or a big agency, often you have large client volume requirements. Often in those scenarios, those same day access or constant intake flow. And that can be difficult and take a lot of your time. Documentation and progress tracking is an incredible amount of time and red tape when you work for a government agency. There are many meetings, many useless meetings that take a lot of your time. And this is already on top of having like a large client volume and a bunch of other responsibilities. And there's limited ability for CEU trainings. Like the last agency I worked, we had to use vacation time if I wanted to attend an outside training. So if I wanted to attend a continuing education training to maintain my license, and this is when before we were doing everything virtually and really you had to go to that hotel conference room downtown and spend all day there. I would have to use vacation time to go get training, also pay for that training all by myself. There are no perks to working in mental health, especially at a public agency. Okay, time. If you work for one of those platforms like BetterHelp, like the ones I have mentioned, other ones that you guys know, I don't even know all of them. They also have large client volume requirements, or you have to carry a large volume of clients to make what you need based on the structure of those platforms for providers, for therapists. With platforms like this, you must be more available in between appointments and messaging and things. And that is not really a thing in private practice because everything I do has a dollar sign on it. So if I have to send you an email that's more than 5 minutes long, then you get charged for it. We are not texting clinical things back and forth because I would charge you for it. So there are more demands on your time with a platform set up like BetterHelp. And again, the multiple ways to provide services via texting, via messaging, via face-to-face, via phone. I do it one way. We meet face-to-face and that's how it works. Anything else has its own dollar sign attached. You are more limited in your ability to set boundaries and balancing with other activities, diversity. Probably not so much. You're just seeing clients back to back to back with one of these platforms to make enough money, sometimes all day. Okay, time benefits in private practice. There's flexible and variable caseload size. So if I give an example of that, it's like I used to have a much larger caseload size. And in the last couple of years, if I've needed to focus more on my mental health, I've reduced that. I don't have to ask permission. Does it affect me in some ways? Yes, but I get to make that decision, decide what makes the most sense, and have a flexible and variable caseload size. I don't have to keep the same number of clients all the time. Yes, I do have my own YouTube channel. It's just YouTube/@timelesstherapist. And yes, this will be posted there. I think Jason's going to end up posting all of my shows there eventually, as well as on the Circle of Friends podcast YouTube channel. You can find the replay there. And eventually I will get around to putting this on my website. And then you should be able to find all the replays of my shows there as well. So 3 places. my YouTube channel at Timeless Therapist, Circle of Friends YouTube channel at Circle of Friends Podcast, and on my website, www.sarahobrienlcsw.com. Thank you for that question. Okay, flexible and variable caseload size depending on your financial needs. You can change this week to week. Like maybe there's like 1 week out of the month that really isn't good for you. And so you want to see less clients that week. Fantastic. That is up to you. You can schedule when you want and decide what makes sense for you. You can make more per hour this way so that your caseload size can be more reasonable. There is documentation, but you can do it whenever when it works for you. And there's a lot less documentation if you worked in a community or public mental health agency. The amount of documentation is ungodly, and there is less in private practice. Yes, there is some, but it's way less. And then you can also take off whenever you wanted. I think about like not only did I have on-call nights at my last agency job, but they also had coverage requirements. So the office I was at had to have at least 2 clinicians there at all times. So we had a coverage schedule. So sometimes I couldn't get time off because I was on coverage at the office. That's not something you have to deal with in private practice. So you really do get to collect more of your time and spend your time on the work that you want to be doing and less time on filler, which ultimately means like less time working. Capacity. Oh my God, I could go on all day about this. Public mental health agencies. Capacity to work with the clients they assign you. In public mental health agencies, they're usually more acute and chronic. So more severe and more long-term, especially when they're first coming into services with you or coming into treatment or intake. They're usually very acute, which requires more of the mental health provider when we're dealing with acute and chronic cases of severe mental illness people. In the public agency, you have no control over which clients or how many are added to your caseload. So if it is diagnoses you're not as familiar with, you don't get a choice. If it is anything else that does not work well with you, you do not get a choice. If you do not want to work with somebody, and a case for me was being threatened by a client at my last agency job when I had to hospitalize them. And so I had to advocate for myself to say, I'm not going to take this person back when they, back on my caseload when they get out of the hospital because they threatened me on their way out. So, but that was not intuitive or inferred. I had to ask specifically for that and advocate for that. And that is for my own safety. Talk about capacity. Very difficult to provide care or services to somebody who's threatened you. You don't have the capacity for it. I'm a human being. It's should not be required of me. Let me just say that. Centralized scheduling in these places also limits choice. I'm a little bit of a control freak anyways, but one of the things that really works for me in private practice is putting clients not only where I choose to have openings, but putting clients back to back that I want to, or not putting these clients back to back because they're usually more work or take more capacity, right? For that therapy hour, whatever the case may be. I have control over the flow even of my day, and maybe like not having all of my most challenging or most chronic or most acute cases on the same day. That's just good work. And in agencies, they often don't care, which are some of these unreasonable demands and the unsafe working conditions. Platforms like BetterHelp, you have to have more clients to make what you need or to meet their requirements, which can mean lowered capacity. You have to have more availability. So that's that in between session communication that they often encourage and maybe you get paid for, but that means that you have to be on for more than just the hour or whatever that you're seeing them for therapy. And that takes some of your capacity. With platforms like this, employer demands versus support. So they are expecting these things from you, but what are they giving you in return? And I'm not just talking about like tangible support, like they run your billing for you, they pay you and you don't have to run it for insurance. Okay, great. Like all that's fine and good if those are things that you want, but what's support for you as a provider? Do they understand that like it's difficult to see people all day, every day? Do they support your mental health and initiatives? What is it like if you like need to take time off? Or what is it like if you get a complaint? What is it like if you get an audit? You know, what is it like if you have your own stuff going on? They might be providing some tangible business support, but it's not likely they're providing a lot of other support. And then you may be not in a structure where you can even get that. And at places like the platforms like BetterHelp are not developed or run by mental health providers. So they do not have an understanding about clinicians and their capacity. It's a business model. And every business is trying to make money. Every for-profit business is trying to make money. That's it at the end of the day. I don't care what their service or business is, me included. Private practice is a for-profit business. I'm trying to make a profit. At the end of the day, most of that profit is to like pay my bills and do other things because my practice is small and it's just me, but to make a profit, yes. And at these other places, you know, the lack of care and understanding of clinician capacity because they are focused on profits and because these are businesses with business structures, and that's what they're concerned about. And there is not consideration on the healing, the health, the mental health, the psychological safety, the support, and the needs for clinicians and their capacity to provide good care. Most of the people are looking at the dollar sign in a business and not the quality of care being provided to the people seeking their services. And to determine the quality of care that is being provided to clients or patients depends on the capacity and mental health of the provider. Let me say that again. The quality of care provided to patients depends on the mental health and capacity of the provider. So there needs to be a lot more focus on the provider than the patient, because you can't get good care if the person giving the care is not in a good space, is not well taken care of, is not making a living wage, or is not supported by their employer. Capacity in private practice. You choose which clients to see and when. You can schedule light weeks when needed, like I said. Often in private practice in general, there's just less acuity, less acute cases, less required documentation, like I said. So a greater ability for nervous system care. I gave you guys the example of like the first 7 years of my business. I was, you know, seeing a lot. My caseload was high. I had somewhere between 25 and 30 client sessions a week. Yes, it's a lot. And in the last 2 years, I've cut back to almost half of that for my own mental health. Yes, my pocket feels it, but I have the ability to do that as I need and as I'm capable or able, given my financial situation, and I don't have to ask permission. And if you work for anybody else, they're going to have basically quotas on how many, even if you work in a group private practice, they're going to have expectations for the number of clients that you see in a week. Generally, it's not going to be that flexible. But you can literally change it week to week as you need to in private practice, or for like an extended period of time, if that's also what you need. I like having that freedom and flexibility. Okay, trauma. I've definitely been re-traumatized at my workplaces. Some by the circumstances of the workplaces and some by leadership at those workplaces. Public agency. Field providers get little training, support, and safety considerations. No training. Like, go, Sarah. Go into the city of Richmond. Go into people's homes. Do mental health skill building. We're not going to train you. Like, nobody said this is what you say. This is how you say it. It's just like, go do this, and it's like, okay. How you figure it out, right? And it's like this so many places. And it's just crazy. I'll give you guys another example of a safety concern. So when I worked at my last public agency job, caseloads could be people are in and out. Like sometimes people are chronic and stay a long time. Other people are acute, and because of that, like they don't stay in services. But it's an agency that's still trying to make a profit. And so there are requirements on me as the provider to get case management units every week or every month, depending on what what the requirement is and who I need to see. And I had a fairly new client that I hadn't had very long who stopped coming, right? Like that happens. And in public agencies that you can't just let it go. They don't let you let it go. You have to follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up and kind of find out and close them out properly and figure out if they're well or da 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 da, all the stuff. And it all comes back on the provider, the clinician, the case manager, whoever. And so this was a case, like I didn't have this person very long. It was a male, may or may not made a difference to me, but in this case, maybe it did. And my head not answering my phone calls for like a couple of weeks, has not come in for appointments. So obviously does not want to see me, does not want to come back to this agency for whatever reason. And my supervisor was like, you need to go out to his house. You want me to cold call his house when this person has successfully dodged and avoided me for like a month? No, sir. So I told my supervisor, I was like, I'm not showing up to this person's house unannounced to see where they are and why they haven't come for their mental health services. I absolutely will not do that. And then she was sort of like, you have to. And I was like, well, then you have to come with me. I'm not doing that by myself. That's what I mean, guys. There is not consideration for those safety concerns. I had to advocate in every situation, and I felt was unsafe or could potentially put me unsafe because they were having me do something on my own or not during daytime hours or not at the office. And yes, there's some of that we accept. A lot of social work happens in the field and people in their communities, but there should be training. There should be support. There should be safety. There should be, more than one provider maybe at a time going out to do these things. That it causes more trauma. And oftentimes, and especially a bunch of the people that I work with, they get injured, literally physically injured and or emotionally or psychologically injured in some of these workplaces. Diagnoses or behaviors that activate you, you don't have a choice but to work with these people or heavily advocate and hope that your employers or managers are going to heed your request. There's little support for time for self-care. That's just in general. And during the workday, it's like, yes, you get your allotted breaks, but overall it's a grind. There's no room for creativity. So after 9 years of doing that, I'm basically like, I'm in meetings, I'm doing daily, monthly, quarterly, and annually documentation, like a bunch of it. And then I'm in meetings. I'm not creating anything. I'm not writing anything. I'm not doing anything new. The agencies won't even send me for trainings without having to take my own vacation time. Like there's no room for your brain to do anything else but to grind day in and day out with providing direct services. Folks, it's not possible to do that for a 40 or 50-year career and never do anything else. It will re-traumatize folks. We don't have capacity for it. There needs to be variability and diversity in our work tasks. Otherwise, burnout is likely just in the repetitive nature of what we're doing, let alone that it's challenging. And there's a grind nature to the work, just like day in, day out grind. Okay, with other platforms, client complaints are addressed how? Is it that they know at all costs, or again, is the provider cared for and supported in some way? With these, you have limited to no control over reimbursement. It's kind of like working for any agency or private practice. They're going to pay you what they pay you, and you can't really negotiate beyond that. Lack of concern for provider burnout with that grind nature of just see clients. Problems with payments can equal stress. And then you're at the mercy of the company to pay you, right? And to do everything on the up and up, to not sell client information, to all of that, like kind of comes back on you. The platform of BetterHelp, again, is not run or developed by mental health providers. They are not under the same regulations that you are as the provider working for them. So anybody that is working for any of these big platforms, I hope you're carrying your own malpractice insurance because you are not going to be covered otherwise. And that is something to consider. If you're not going to be covered otherwise, and they're not going to support you in that way, and they're taking a portion of what you make, what are they actually giving you that's helpful? And is it helping your mental health, healing, not getting re-traumatized, honoring your capacity in your nervous system or not? Because there is a better way. Private practice, you get to choose your working conditions, right? Do you work at an office? Do you work at your house? Do you work virtually? Do you work around other people? Do you work on your own? You can set rates and choose which insurances you take. You don't have to take them all. You don't have to take low paying ones. Like, again, you have a lot of freedom and choice there. Space for diverse tasks and creativity, depending on if you like want to do your website, you want to create flyers, you want to run a group, like you want to do some other stuff. Like, you have the freedom to do that. You can set firmer limits and boundaries, like when you work. I'll give you an example about this. I am not a morning person. Some would say it's a limiting belief. However, I would just say I've literally been this way since I was a small child. And like my brain just doesn't come online for like a couple of hours where I can like interact with people well. I'm kind of foggy. I can't articulate as well. I'm not as in a great mood. I can't listen as well. Like a lot of things for me the first few hours in the morning. And so one of the huge benefits for me in setting boundaries is that I don't see clients before 10:30 a.m. because I don't do well then. And if I'm going to provide good care and honor my capacity and my own nervous system, then I need to work when it makes sense for me. And early in the morning is not it. And at other job, I mean, one job I had to be there at 7:30. Other ones I had to be there at 8 or 8:30. Be there. Like, also really difficult for me. But let alone be like ready at 8:30 a.m. to like see a client and do work, like that doesn't work as well for me. I did it for 9 years, but man, it's so much better having the ability to set boundaries the way that I need to. And resuming some control over who you see, when you see them, your working conditions, increases our confidence. And an increased confidence is better for mental health. It's better in reducing burnout. It's better in life satisfaction. So the inability to increase your confidence by not having control over any part of your work, of the people you work with, of how you work, of when you work, can be really difficult, especially in a very demanding and draining position as a mental health provider. Okay, so we went over benefits to starting a private practice and subsequently the non-benefits of not being in private practice in terms of time, money, capacity, and trauma or re-traumatization. So 5 reasons to start your own private practice. Set your hours, set your rates, set your time off, set up your caseload, and set your temperature. For anybody that works in an office, you know how important that is. Like I just said, set your hours. Better in the morning, better in the afternoon, better in the evenings on weekends. Up to you. Schedule clients when it makes sense for you. Set your rates. Believe your skills are worth more. Want to earn more without working more. Set your rates to what you want. Now, insurance is going to pay you whatever. It's still going to be more than in your agency job. And you can still choose and take self-pay clients and choose your own rates. That's a great benefit. Set your time off. Want to be off on Christmas Eve? No desire to be responsible for coverage on call, like some of the examples that I was talking to you guys about. Take off when you need to. Again, there are other consequences, like I don't have paid time off being an entrepreneur and in private practice. So when I take days off and don't see clients, I take days with no pay, but I can take whatever days I want and I don't have to ask permission. And you'd be surprised. Like you think, oh, but I'd rather have my PTO. No, because you can make more to cover for that. You can plan for the month you're going to take a week off. Like trust me, in a lot of ways, it's not better to have PTO when they're dictating when and how you can use your PTO. You can set up your caseload. Prefer not to work with certain populations or diagnoses. Prefer to have a caseload of under 40 people. Up to you. Set your temperature, usually freezing cold or sweating in an office, field, hospital setting. Prefer a certain temperature, literally up to you if you're choosing your own office or whatever space. These are some of the perks and ways to take back some control for yourself, which actually provides a lot of healing for mental health providers. How can I help you get started? Okay, well, you can rewatch this And then I have some resources for you. I have a free private practice to start or not, as sort of like a brainstorming thing that is free. Send me a message and I will give it to you. Or join Circle of Friends Club with any of the memberships, a free friends membership, business membership, or mental health provider membership, any of them. And you can access it there. It will be in our resources page. You can also purchase for a low price of $15. I have it on sale right now. The private practice startup guide. Now, this has more information about research, logistics, and things that you need yourself as an entrepreneur, how to think like that, and what that means. So, it's going to give you a little bit more. The free ebook is going to sort of start getting those like brain juices flowing, and then the startup guide for that low cost of $15 is going to give you more. And you can start there for free and for $15 to start to consider if you want to have a private practice of your own. If you want to start your own and do it all on your own, but need the forms, there are several forms that you need clients to fill out in terms of private practice, informed consent, privacy practices, things like that. I have a list of about 14 different forms that I have templates for. I have all the templates, both in Word and PDF files, and you can purchase that directly on my website. The forms bundle just gives you templates of all the forms and then plug and play your information in there and what you need, but it has all the legal information, all the codes that you need, all the information, and you can just add your stuff. Other ways that I can help you. So we got free, low cost, little higher costs for the forms bundle, and then private practice startup packages, which is a service that includes one-to-one time with me. And you can choose package 1, 2, or 3. Package 1 is over 4 weeks. Package 2 is over 8 weeks. And package 3 is over 12 weeks. And they have different levels of resources and, of course, time with me to help you start your private practice. The 12-week package number 3, the 12-week package, is end-to-end setup. I will help you start up your private practice and get your first 3 clients within 3 months. And all the information that you need, all the business entity stuff, legal stuff, licenses that you like, business license, all the things you need. I can help you end to end. I did it all myself, and I do not have any issues and no legal issues, and everything is on the up and up. And then community support. So you can join Circle of Friends Club, and you'll have peer support and camaraderie from other mental health providers that have joined Circle of Friends Club. If we get a large enough provider community over there, I will be offering some extra resources, including monthly clinical consultation. Let me get my voice back on. Clinical consultation for difficult cases, patient cases, or things you're unsure about how to treat, and monthly business consultation. So if you're a practice owner, then we can talk about some of those business things, and we will have support and education monthly in those. And there's also free resources and handouts when you join as a mental health provider. A few resources with a free membership, but many, many, many more when you join with a paid membership. And you have access to those groups with a paid membership. And then we will have a whole community over there for you. So those are ways in which I can help you. Free ebook, low cost startup guide, a little bit higher cost forms bundle, highest cost in terms of service packages, and then variable cost in membership options at Circle of Friends Club. Who am I? For anybody that doesn't know or is just tuning in for the first time, I am a licensed psychotherapist, specifically a licensed clinical social worker in Virginia and Maryland. I am a vetted and verified trauma-informed provider and subject matter expert in trauma-informed care and mental health. And I wear many hats: Chief Mental Health Officer for Circle of Friends Club, Director of Student Wellness at Transformation Kitchen. I'm a speaker and a trainer. And yes, you guys heard it, a private practice consultant. And I'm happy to get you up and running so that you can have a better balance to your work life and your other life, so that you can actually maintain longevity in this field of mental health, of being a mental health provider, but in a way that makes sense, that isn't further traumatizing to you, that isn't a further wear and tear on your nervous system and capacity, and in ways that you can actually show up best as a provider and as a human. that's all I got for today. I appreciate everybody dropping in and giving me your comments. My check out today. I have several writing projects I need to do and training slide decks I need to develop. So that will be my afternoon. I like kind of getting in a groove and then being able to focus on those things. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that work today. Be thinking about my Richmond folks without their water. Be thinking about California folks and their fire. Be thinking about yourself and how you can better take care of yourself, especially if you want to show up to meet needs or demands for communities that have needs. And tune in next week to the Healing Hour. Check out our newsletter. Jason drops the newsletter every Sunday, I think now, and it will have a lineup of all of our live shows for the week. I'm every Thursday at 11. We have a couple of other ones earlier in the week, so check out those. You can catch the replay on my YouTube /@timelesstherapist or at the Circle of Friends podcast YouTube channel. And be sure to like it, comment wherever if you watch the replay as well. I will see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves always.
Thank you for watching The Healing Hour with Sarah O'Brien. See you next time.